I said I was going to do a live training program critique today at 3 o'clock. Well, I'm an hour early, so deal with it. I said in my original message here, if you want to know how your training program stacks up, all you need to do is post it below, hear my thoughts on how to make it better, post your goals, and a short bit about yourself and your previous experience. So Stephen has said the goal is to build muscle and get lean. He hopes it's what I'm looking for. And yeah, it's a pretty good outline. So as you can see, Stephen has a 3-day resistance training split: dumbbell chest press, dumbbell incline press, dumbbell plies, close grip press, tricep dips, tricep pull down. What seems to be a back day with inverted rows, a dumbbell row, a seated row, pull-ups, then bicep curls, hammer curls, and preacher curls, and a leg day. So back squat, deadlift, seated leg press, leg curl, and then some shoulders at the end, dumbbell shoulder press, dumbbell forward raise, dumbbell lateral raise, and barbell upright row. So, on the whole, it's pretty balanced. So when I first read this, I saw, all of the chest exercises, and I was thinking, oh no, here we go, complete bro. He's gonna have douchebag shoulders, rounded forward chest, and no back work. Looks like Stephen kind of knows what he's doing anyway, because he's included a good amount of back work in here. So my first big issue with this sort of setup, and again, take it for what it's worth, is that there's way too little total weekly volume in it. So what I mean by that is, on a given day, the body part gets hammered. He's killing his chest here and killing his triceps. There's so much pressing in this workout that he's probably leaving with arms like noodles by the end of it. There's so much back, there's so much pulling in biceps that he's probably leaving unable to move his arms afterwards. And on this one, I can just expect this gives about 7-day DOMs off of it. And there's nothing inherently wrong with any of that. I just don't think it's optimal. So for me, if building muscle and getting lean is your goal, you need to have more frequency. And I don't mean you have to train more days, I just mean that on a given day, you need to get more work in. So the normal template I'd use for someone when they're getting started is this: a main movement, an assistance movement, and then some supplemental work. What I think Stephen could do to make his workout better is roll the 2 days together. So let's say A1 is first movement, becomes chest press. A2 becomes inverted row. B1 becomes DB incline. B2 becomes DB row. C1, you're hitting off, probably a dumbbell fly if you want to do it. And then C2, you got your pull-ups in there. It looks like Stephen is kind of failing on his pull-ups as the workout goes on, so it makes more sense to put the hardest exercise first, which is the pull-up, and leave the easier ones, the inverted rows, for later. Okay, so that's how I changed the first day around. I do a similar thing then, probably with the back and bicep work, where you've got, a supersetted close grip bench press with a dumbbell bicep curl, supersetted dips with preacher curls, and then supersetted pull downs with hammer curls. So the total effect of each training session, okay, not sure what's going on here, but let's just ignore it. The total volume of each training session is similar, but I just think pairing big movements like this back to back means you get through the workout quicker, you get through it with more quality, and when it comes to looking for lean muscle gain, the quality of work you do and the amount of volume you can get in is super, super important. One thing I'd start to add in then on top of that is tempo work. So I don't know what sort of way Stephen is doing his work at the moment, but I'm assuming, they're just straight up and down reps. You take the dumbbell up, you pull it down, you push it up. The big failing with that is your body will always go to its strongest default pattern to make shit happen. So what I mean by that is, unless you can sit there right now, Stephen, and squeeze your chest, flex your chest or flex your lats, your bicep or your tricep without moving the joints around it, chances are you're not recruiting the muscles optimally when you are training. And if you want to get, let's say, a bigger chest, and every time you go to push your arms away from your body in a pressing motion, your shoulders and your triceps take over, your chest never gets stimulated. So The easiest way to get around that for me is to just slow it down. So instead of racing through movements, take a bit of tempo, increase your time under tension. More time under tension means, more blood is pushed into the muscle, you have a greater hypertrophic response, greater mTOR recruitment, all of the stuff that you need to make sure you're gaining muscle at the fastest rate possible. So when I say tempo work, what I mean is your dumbbell chest press, and I assume that's like a dumbbell bench press, becomes, a 3-second negative and a 2-second positive. So on the way down, you're counting 3, 2, 1, 0. You start your push and go 1, 2, 0. You're at the top. You go again. So instead of each rep taking, or each set taking 15 to 20 seconds, you're extending it to 45 to 60 seconds. And then more time under tension leads to better growth. It also means you're probably going to have to use lighter weights. But at the end of the day, what you need to remember is that your muscles know tension. They don't know weight. They only know how much effort they're being required to output to complete a given task. So think about it this way. You can, right there, right now, do an imaginary barbell curl. And if you pull up really slowly with your bicep and actively imagining all those fibers in your bicep contracting and shorting and getting tighter and tighter and tighter, if you do that for 15, 20 seconds, moving your arm quite slowly, you're going to get a serious burn in the bicep. You've done that with no resistance. If you start to add in even an empty barbell on that, the overload and stimulatory effect is just outrageous. If you do it for a few weeks, you'll see what I mean. My big concern about this workout now is the leg portion. So, if I was going to be throwing a program at Stephen and I wanted to maintain it similar to this, I'd probably go day 1, chest back. Day 2, let's say shoulders. Day 3, we've got like quad dominant, so squatty stuff. Sorry, let's just split these out a little bit. Day 2, you've got quad dominant squatty stuff. Day 3, you've got shoulder, tricep, bicep. And then day 4, you got like hamstring, glute dominant. So like DL pattern or deadlift patterns. The reason for that is, you're never going to get a good leg workout in with this little volume. You hit 4 sets straight on the squats and go 4 sets straight on the deadlift, you're wiped. Anything you do after that is just a waste of time. The same with the shoulder work. There's so much shoulder stuff going on here that, look, I don't know what your injury history is like. I don't know what your shoulders are like. But if most people did this sort of setup for a sustained period of time, they'd rip the absolute nuts out of their shoulder. And they just end up making no gains at all. Shoulders are one of those really peculiar muscles that can be extremely hard to get a growth response out of. And just like mindlessly smashing them again and again and again doesn't always help. So, if I was going to switch things around for Stephen, I'd say go with this sort of stuff. I'd probably do, the first set reasonably heavy. So say 4 sets of 6 reps. 4 sets of 6 reps. At like a 3-0-1-0 tempo. Pull-ups, whatever weight it needs to be. The second set, 4 sets of 12. Again, slow and controlled. The rows, 4 sets of 12 each side. The dumbbell flies, probably quite high reps, so 3 to 4 sets of 15 to 20 reps, really just to burn the hell out of his chest afterwards and just leave with a nice little pump. And then with the inverted rows, again, you probably need to go slightly lower because it's unlikely you're going to get that many reps. So say 10 to 12. That's how I'd approach that. With the leg workout, if I was going to go and focus on getting the legs bigger, I'd do some high rep squats. 15, 20 reps, decreasing reps over the course of a week or over several months. High rep squats, go straight into like some sort of unilateral movement, split squats maybe. After that, there's not going to be a ton left in the tank. So some light, easy enough hamstring work. And then again, just some more hamstring work if my laptop would cooperate. to balance it out. So practically speaking, you know, that might look like A becomes, you know, squats at 60% of his 1 rep max, aiming for 3 sets of 15 to 20 reps. B, split squats, you got whatever, 4 sets of 10 reps per leg. Again, using a bit of tempo to make life harder. So 4 seconds on the way down, 0 at the bottom, 1 or a controlled movement on the way up, and then 0 at the top. C, you know, probably considering we're going to do a lot of hip flexion or hip flexion dominant or hip flexion extension dominant hamstring work. On the other day, let's just say like leg curls here of some sort, and then maybe something light and easy like cable pull throughs to finish off the hams and low back. On the hamstring day, you know, starting with deadlifts, you're probably never going to go wrong, but probably in the 3 to 5 set, 3 to 5 rep range, maybe up towards 6 if your technique holds up. B, bang out some heavy stiff leg deadlifts afterwards. Again, 3 to 5 sets of, you know, 5 to 8 reps. C, pushing on from there, I really like to head on and hit some bent over rows after deadlifting. I just think it's a really nice way to really fatigue your lower back in the correct manner and make your hamstrings do a little bit of stabilization work. And then D, again, probably some leg curl variation. You know, leg curls really aren't sexy or cool, but they're brutally effective for getting in touch with your hamstrings so you can start to use them through other movements. Hope that helps, Stephen. That's how I play it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what you need to ask yourself is, has this been working for me for the last few months? Am I still making progress? Am I still getting bigger? If you are, keep doing it. If you're not, change something. Class-wise, you know, I'd probably drop them. If you do them because you enjoy them, great, but I don't think you're supporting your goal. An extra targeted training day in there of something like an extra glute hamstring session would be much more beneficial in my opinion. So Sean has asked about smolov year round. I know he's just being facetious here. For those of you who don't know smolov, it's a very intense squat program where you squat 3 to 4 days a week between 75 and 90% of your 1 rep max all of the time. So it's brutally effective, and there's a lot of coaches who are guilty of just latching onto it because it's effective. And you know, one of the biggest reasons why it's so effective is that you get a massive stimulatory response from doing a huge amount of volume. You know, if you haven't done it before and you go and do it, it's going to blow your squat up because your legs have no other option but to adapt. If they don't, you probably just explode and die. So, you know, a coach runs it and sees incredible gains. You know, 20% isn't unusual the first time you do it. And then it just starts to taper away. You know, you start fighting for 2.5 kilo PRs off of each cycle. And given how much work and effort goes into a smolov cycle, it's absolutely ludicrous to do that year round, in my opinion. And I just think it's a stunning lack of flexibility and knowledge from a coach who does something like that. So PADDY, he's doing a standard 5-3-1 template, assistance for fat loss and hypertrophy, 3 to 4 rounds of Poliquin death circuits in the 8 to 12 rep range. Clever choices needed to avoid mad DOMs or weaknesses for the next session, considering 5-3-1 is demanding. Shoulder press in a death circuit on 5-3-1 squat day to keep the chest fresh for bench 5-3-1 day. A few aerodyne sprints added for summer. Any comments or concerns? But bearing in mind he feels his body fat reacts best to full body sessions. Okay. I'm not the biggest fan in the world of 5-3-1. I think there's just not enough volume at the right percentages to make strength gains, if that's the point of doing it. And if that's not your point of doing the program, then why are you doing 5-3-1? So, you know, a modification I've seen really work really well on 5-3-1. Instead of doing like the standard 3x5 at, I think off the top of my head, it's 60, 65, 70, 75%. So instead of doing like a set of 5 there on each of those, instead extend it out. So one set is 65%, one set is 70%, 2 sets of 5 at 75, and then one set of 5 plus as well. So like instead of doing, you know, a little bit of volume with some moderate weight, you're now getting quite a bit of volume in there with that same weight. And I just find that works a lot better for people. But anyway, there's not really a huge amount to go on without knowing the specifics of what Paddy's using movement wise. But I just think that doing like death circuits, which by their name sound incredibly fatiguing and taxing, probably isn't the smartest if you're doing full body training sessions, purely because you're going to come into the next day fatigued, as you've correctly pointed out. But again, it's really hard to comment on any of this without knowing what your specific setup is like. So I'd have to look back on the 5-3-1 percentages, but I think it's 75%, 70%, 75% for fives. It's something like, look, let's just run with this: 75, 80%, 85% for threes, and then C is like, I think it's again 75% x 5, 85% by 3, and then like, let's just call it 95% by 1. So even if these aren't the percentages, it doesn't matter because you'll get the point. So instead of doing one set of 5 at each of these, you instead will go 75% for 2 sets of 5 and 1 set of 5 plus. 85% for 2 sets of 3 and 1 set of 3 plus. And then you're looking at 95% for 2 singles and like a set of 1 plus. I think this is actually 90% and this is possibly 80%. But again, doesn't matter for the purpose of this explanation. So I've done like this setup here. I'm touching the screen, drawing circles with it on my finger. You won't actually be able to see that. But I've done like this one here that I'm drawing a circle over with the guys in my gym and seen incredible results with it because it puts volume where it needs to be, which is up in the heavier rep ranges. The other cool thing about this is you can start to set rep PRs. So if you're doing 75% this week, so let's say it's 75 kilos, and on your last set you get 15 reps. Next time this percentage rocks around, it's going to be a little bit heavier. So instead of 75 kilos, it'll be 77.5. But you have something to aim for and something to beat. But yeah, that's the only thing I can really make a meaningful comment on without seeing the rest of the program, mate. Hopefully that helps, guys. I'll post up these little mindless ramblings underneath the comment section here, and I'll post it in the video as well. Any questions on any of this, just pop a comment up under the video. But hopefully you've enjoyed that, and if you feel it was valuable, let me know and I'll do some more.